The decline of Chuck E. Cheese. But wait, what happened and why? Let's find out in the video. Nolan Bushnell, a co-founder of Atari, originally designed the character Charles Entertainment Cheese to be the cigar-chewing logo of Pizza Time Theater in the 1970s. The chain that adopted the mascot's moniker has undergone various organizational changes and sales to stay current with the times. In 44 years, Chuck E. Cheese has witnessed a lot. The mascot rodent of the nation's top children's entertainment facility and pizza business has seen the development of generations, changes in playtime fashions, and the transition of video games from arcade to homes. His image has changed over the years, going from a rat in the company's early years to a mouse during a rebranding drive. While businesses around the nation are expanding, the family-friendly amusement and pizza joint Chuck E. Cheese have filed into bankruptcy. The 2020 epidemic affected many individuals hard. Although the coronavirus epidemic dealt the corporation its final death blow, it had been experiencing financial difficulties for a very long time. In this video, we'll look at some of the circumstances that caused the decline of what was once a well-known and thriving American company. The early competition. After building his first restaurant in 1977, a significant success, Bushnell didn't waste time establishing a second, more enormous Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. Additionally successful, he opened other locations after this backup site. The rat situation appeared to be favorable. His business was doing so well that he started getting inquiries from individuals who wanted to create their own Chuck E. Cheese franchises. Businessman Robert Brock requested one of those franchises, and the two men agreed to make it happen. Unfortunately, soon after agreeing to the terms of the agreement, Brock decided that he wished out since he wanted to work with another person to launch his rival restaurant chain, which he branded Showbiz Pizza Place. There was litigation, obviously, and the outcome was that Brock could start his Showbiz rival, but would be required to give Bushnell a tiny fraction of his income. To persuade families to put their difficult pennies into their arcade cabinets and away from the competition, Showbiz Pizza Place and the other leisure companies competed against one another for the next 3 years after their founding. It seemed to appeal to the wrong constituency. For many years, any child enjoying a birthday or another special occasion went to Chuck E. Cheese. As a result, the corporation put all of its efforts towards attracting children and creating a kid-friendly environment in its businesses. The issue was that many families didn't enjoy taking their kids to Chuck E. Cheese, so it wasn't that tempting to them. Another reason they refused was that most parents started to leave the company when they discovered other possibilities. According to the specialists, the business should have advertised directly to the parents rather than indirectly through the children. They've defaulted before. Most individuals are unaware that Chuck E. Cheese had filed for bankruptcy twice. The most current filing was under Chapter 11. The first time was in 1983 with two factors at play. The competition came first. Showbiz Pizza Place locations, run by former Chuck E. Cheese owner Robert Brock, aggressively pursued Bushnell as the two brands opened store after restaurant to outdo one another. The convergence between the arcades and restaurants ultimately culminated at the end of 1984. It's also crucial to look back 1 year until 1983, the year of the significant video game crash when cabinet interest collapsed. Because of this rivalry between Showbiz and Chuck E. Cheese, both chains expanded more quickly than they should have and didn't conduct sufficient due diligence before opening new locations. As a result, both businesses made terrible decisions regarding the placement of their restaurants and accrued more debt. Things weren't looking perfect for the chain when you factored in the drop in the attractiveness of video games, which were the foundation of both businesses. Fortunately, Showbiz was capable of renegotiating their loans and acquiring some cash, which allowed them to get through this challenging period. Chuck E. Cheese is omitted. They failed in their attempts to make money, and in 1984, they filed for bankruptcy. And get this, Showbiz ultimately paid $35 million for the Chuck E. Cheese assets. They took a while to adjust. Additionally, Chuck E. Cheese took a while to adapt to the shifts around the company. which put them behind schedule when they made the required adjustments to remain competitive. They took a long time to renovate and modernize their shops, including the games and technologies. Another important element that led to their downfall and ultimate bankruptcy filing was the reality they were late to jump on: the overnight ordering and pickup trend. Such a debt. The corporation website claims that Chuck E. Cheese is an orphan who makes up for his difficult upbringing by celebrating other children's birthdays. As the business approached the early 2010s, they discovered themselves leading a hard-knock life, much like just another well-known orphan. Sales began to decline, and their efforts to remodel the brand weren't having the intended result. Sales continued to decline in 2014, despite Chuck E. Cheese's best efforts to stay upbeat and hold on to the hope that the sun will shine again tomorrow. And at that point, Daddy Warbucks, Apollo Global Management, appeared to save the day. The business paid $950 million to a private equity firm for Chuck E. Cheese. All of this seems excellent, but in a stock offering, the company making the acquisition borrows money, which creates debt on the acquired organization. This ultimately did nothing more than pile on a ton of debt to a company struggling for a while. This is essentially the same circumstance that brought about the demise of Toys R Us and other retailers. They made more adjustments to the branding and the restaurant to revive the company, but these fell short. Even though they were producing money, their debt was so large that they could only truly afford to cover the interest, not even close to paying it off. The corporation made a profit just 1 year out of the last 6 years since its Apollo acquisition. Negative publicity. The recent incident in which the business gave significant incentives to its chief execs while simultaneously laying off the majority of its workforce was consistent with the numerous PR-owned objectives the company has achieved in recent years. Their introduction of the Pasquale's Pizza and Wings digital idea to aid their online sales was criticized as a scheme to mislead customers. Due to this, as well as the fact that fights have broken out in their concepts, they have received negative press throughout the years, which has caused many of their consumers to avoid them and contributed to their demise. Is Chuck E. Cheese on its last legs now? Although declaring bankruptcy may seem to be Chuck's final option, that may not be the case. Chuck E. Cheese has recovered from bankruptcy once before, in the middle of the 1980s, and they may do so once again this time. The business intends to use default to discharge a significant portion of its debt, and they even claim they will keep adding additional sites while going through this process. You'd be shocked by how many YouTube videos of people visiting their nearest Chuck E. Cheese to look around it and play the games one last time. The Chuck E. Cheese brand continues to enjoy strong brand recognition and broad appeal. In light of this, the Wall Street Journal has stated that several prospective purchasers are interested in purchasing. However, the industry has altered a lot, and if the rat returns, the new Chuck E. Cheese will likely have a revised business plan. We'll have to wait to see what that sounds like. Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know in the comments section what you have to say about this. And don't forget to subscribe.